Covering a large percent of our planet, the world's ocean and waterways are central to life, trade, and climate. The blue economy is the vision of harnessing these vast resources, from fisheries and maritime transport to offshore energy and coastal tourism as engines for sustainable economic growth. Yet, the concept also raises difficult questions. How do we balance economic opportunity with ecological responsibility? How do we ensure that global development through the oceans does not come at the cost of their survival? Well, my name is Blessing Dagin. Welcome to Untangle. Well, on this episode of Untangle, we aim to break down the idea of the blue economy, what it really means, why it has become such a global priority, and how it could shape the future of growth and sustainability. Guiding us through this conversation is Anthony Bisong, Research Associate at the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa. His research explores international trade, public policy, globalization, regional value chains, and the growth trajectories of economies in a changing world. Thank you so very much for joining us, Mr. Anthony.
Good to have you.
All right, so let's go straight into the conversation on the blue economy. In simple terms, how can you define the blue economy and why has it become such, a global topic?
Okay, in clear terms, blue economy is simply the sustainable use of the oceans, the sea, fresh waters, for economic growth, improved livelihood, jobs, as well as protection of the aquatic ecosystem. So that's in clear terms. And, it's all encompassing because there are lots in the blue economy. Just like you mentioned earlier, it has to do with fishing, maritime transportation, tourism, which is taking center stage in most of the small island developing countries around the world, and then as well as you talk about the biotechnology as well, which is really important, and then the energy which you talked about. So I think the blue economy, it's a push to transitioning the world from the conventional fossil fuel to non-fossil fuel, which is renewable energy. So it has the potential. So it's an opportunity that developed climes are exploring, and I believe developing countries and even the less developed countries, especially those concentrated in Africa, would explore and take advantage of.
Thank you so much. However, I would like you to probably give us a more detailed breakdown when it comes to how maybe an ordinary person could understand these economies around, the sea and all that happens there.
Okay, prior to this time, when you hear of a sea, what just comes to your mind is exploration, but it's now an asset for sustainable economic growth, because countries have moved beyond just exploring to as well as, trying to use it to sustain economic development. When you look at, first of all, climate change, it might interest you to know that that system, the blue economy, retains over 1/3 of carbon emission. So it's really becoming important. That is, it shows the level of sustainability. And above all, going by the SDGs, like overfishing, fishing, over 3 billion of the world global population depends on fishing as their protein. So it's really important and it needs to solve that. And it also helps in solving issues of malnutrition, which is that. So it's really important. And then, like I said, there is a energy transition. Africa have not really harnessed its Atlantic Ocean as well as the Indian Ocean, which cuts across the continent. But continents like Europe, America, and even China are really exploring that. So it's a lot. So it's beyond fishing now. It's beyond fishing. People are getting so much, and also, this new dimension of biotechnology where, lots of the aquatic life in that ecosystem are used in pharmaceuticals, in producing pharmaceuticals, as well as skincare and wellness. That is the nutraceuticals. So it's really important and it's taking center stage. So countries are beginning to see that potential, tap into it and explore it for sustainable growth and better the livelihood of people around.
All right, thank you so much. It's obvious that the blue economy is it's a gold mine,
Absolutely.
but then why has it not really made I don't say headlines, but then where is it at presently, let's say for African countries, or for us this way?
Okay, yes, I think first thing first, we're getting there at the level of in Africa. We have, just like we have the AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade, and one of the trading services, one of the protocol has already been signed, and then we're having the protocol is already in operations, and we have 5 sectors already liberalized under trading services.
Okay.
So in trading services, we have the likes of transport services, of which we have maritime transport, which is part of transport services. And then when you look at travel and tourism related services, we have the maritime tourism, which is also part of it. So it's really important. It's taking center stage. For instance, the WTO fishery agreement that was signed, we have countries like Morocco, Seychelles, who have very huge potential in that sector. I think they are keen into it. And then why, like I said, we're not really exploring our maritime sector. That is the blue economy in Africa is underexploited. So we need to, I think it's high time the agreement, the AfCFTA, would position Africa in that light to explore and as well as, support intra-African trade. These have really been taken advantage by developed climes. Like most of the companies operating in those countries I mentioned in Africa are foreign countries. We're not really exploring it, but I think first thing first, when the agreement becomes fully operational and is implemented, I believe it will open the eyes of Africans, and especially in Nigeria, where we have like the coastal areas. Our maritime sector, like I told you, our maritime sector is still not exploited as it ought to be. But we look forward to the government taking responsibility. Like I said, we have a Ministry of Maritime and Blue Economy. We hope they take center stage in supporting the development and designing a maritime spatial plan for the country, for Africa particularly. And then at the continental level, I doubt if we have that. But we look forward to African countries coming to do that. For now, we are fragmented. That is, everybody's working in isolation. We don't have a continental, maritime spatial plan, unlike EU, like China, which is a big economy, and then the US, who are taking advantage of all the blue economy has to offer. But we look forward to that in the coming years. And then the AfCFTA would better amplify it.
All right. So I know you mentioned previously the areas that the blue economy covers, but then can you particularly highlight specific sectors, that are into this blue economy? Just highlight them so we break it down for a lot of people that may not totally understand what this is about.
We have fishing,
okay,
which is one of them. We have maritime transport,
okay,
which is one of them. We have mentioned biotechnology, maritime biotechnology, which is one of them. Then we talked about the issue of energy, maritime energy,
okay,
which from ocean waves, which is one of them, which can aid the transition. Then we also talked about maritime transport, maritime energy, maritime biotechnology, fishing, amongst others. So there are other potential, even the conservation as well as tourism, maritime tourism. So I think those are the key components of the blue economy.
All right. So when you're talking about economies, definitely we're looking at how they probably would improve the general stance of maybe a country or a particular area. So the blue economy in particular, these sectors you have mentioned, how do they improve, global growth generally?
Yeah, first of all, it might interest you to know that merchandise trade, which is done by the sea, shipping of goods, 80% of merchandise trade is done through the sea. That is a blue economy. So you know how important that is. You can take a case when the Suez Canal in Egypt had a blockade, how it affected global trade. So there are lots of economies, like Egypt economy is dependent on trading services. So when the Suez Canal, which is a major trade route in global trade, was blocked, it affected global trade generally. So it's really important, and they are key. They are key to ensuring international trade. That's movement of goods and services from one country to
the
another.
other, yeah.
And then we talked about maritime tourism as well. Yeah, it is it's bringing so much, like I mentioned, the small island developing countries, of which we have some of them in Africa. They are doing it's a core to their economy. You understand? It's a major contributor to their GDP and all of that. So it shows how important it is. And then when you look at maritime biotechnology, I told you of pharmaceuticals. So there are lots of cancer medications now that are exploited from seaweeds and all of that, and the organisms from there, the enzymes from underwaters, undersea. It's really important. And then skincare, the nutraceuticals. So it's really important. It plays a key role and it's becoming center stage, especially globally. And then we talked about the conservation, biodiversity, which is important, and which is a component of the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's key to that. And then fishing, which WTO have taken center stage, an agreement has already been signed, calling for, a stop. In fact, they're trying to call countries to try to regulate their fishing, So it's something that many people, like coastal communities, rely on that, and which is kind of give them an opportunity to address issues of the first SDG goal, which is poverty, because the ability to fish. And, let me remind you that the fishing industry has a potential of over $150 billion annually. It can back to global economy. So it's really important. It's harnessed, and it shows the critical and the need for government to take advantage as well as exploit optimally.
All right, thank you so much. We've been able to establish the fact that the blue economy is very pivotal when it comes to growth of economies, right? But can you highlight major factors or risks that probably threaten the developments of the blue economy?
Okay, yeah. In the context, like I mentioned, overfishing for the fishing, like I said, the agreement it regulates fishing. So until even coastal lines and communities around those areas are probably sensitized and there's investment in supporting that, we can really not harness that. So overfishing is a risk to ensuring the blue economy is properly harnessed. And then when we look at the issue of the biotechnology, it's something that requires investment. For continents like Africa, we really don't have that investment level to really drive and then harness. But like I said, the developed climes are really taking advantage of that. But we look forward to investing in those very core areas to ensure it's properly harnessed. And then we looked at maritime transport. We talked about, first of all, there's a move for decarbonization. So there are lots of emission, especially our shipping lines, and especially in Nigeria, where we really don't have a regulation which regards emission or thresholds for emissions, so it adds to carbon emissions. So until we start exploring the likes of green hydrogen in our shipping lines, which most of the developed climes are harnessing, I think we'll still have problems because they'll add to global emissions if they are not properly leveraged on. And then issues of conservation, like the pandemic, I can tell you that COVID-19 tourism and the conservation, COVID-19 really affected, the tourism sector. And those economies that are reliant on maritime, easy. And then the danger of climate change. You've heard of lots of floods, lots of tsunamis, earthquakes, and so those are vulnerable. So those are the risks they face. But I think if government is able to set out plans and then try to invest to kind of absorb most of the shocks, I think the sector is good to go to compete favorably with or to drive economic growth in those economies.
All right. So we've been able to establish the fact that there are risk factors which you just broke down. But then, how do we balance the urgent need, for economic growth through the blue economy and probably the damage that these could bring to the maritime ecosystem? How do we balance it to ensure that, yes, we're improving our economy, the blue economy is doing what it promises to do, but then the maritime ecosystem in itself is thriving?
Okay, I mentioned there's this issue of mapping. It needs to be undertaken, maritime mapping, where there should be areas for fishing, areas for shipping lines. It should be mapped out. Then areas for biodiversity, for conservation, as well as for tourism. So that is the first thing every economy should do. That every country that is serious on harnessing the potential of its blue economy, that mapping is very important. I think that's what we're still trying to battle with in this in the global south. And then that's one. And then countries should set out the maritime spatial plan, which I said earlier, where you have a plan on how to harness most of the resources in the maritime sector. That would help beyond exploring to ensure that there's sustainability in practices around the blue economy. Like I said before now, the blue economy was seen as maybe an area where for exploration, for fishing, for as much as doing what you want for transport without regulation. But I think it has gone beyond that. It is seen as it provides climate solution as well. I mentioned earlier that one third of global emission is being absorbed, by blue economy based on, the seaweeds and, the mangroves around the blue economy. So it's really important that all these are mapped out. There is a plan for it. And, I call on, especially African leaders and even at the level, maybe in our country for, regulators within the sectors to ensure that is done. And then, coastal communities are sensitized on the need to adhere to the plan, support them, probably train them, as well as provide incentives, to ensure they keep to the plan and, everything works well. So until we do that, I think we'll still be underexploiting the potential of the sector.
All right, thank you so much. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
All right, we're going on a very short break. When we come back, the conversation on blue economy continues. Please stay with us.
Everybody has a stake in making the world a better place with love and compassion. As we thrive daily, we continue to strive to face the many challenges that faces our Earth because together, we all matter. On one side, we are exploring the captivating stories, the trends, the glamour, while on the other hand, we're looking at the love, the care and compassion from our champions. In our star's quiet cove lies the burning passion for humanity, which is seldom known and unsung to the world. Join me on Famed to look at the flip side of your favorite beyond the regular.
For 2 seasons, Timeline has taken you on a journey of exploring real-life issues and solutions. Well, we are on to season 3 of Timeline, a space where we talk about real issues shaping our world. Here, we sit down with voices that matter, with people who are driving change and making impact. We are talking about more than just problems. We're talking about the attainment of our collective commitment, the global goals, the SDGs, and of course, our community-specific targets. Our conversations aren't just about highlighting problems. They're about finding solutions that truly works, solutions that touches lives and impact the globe. An appraisal of how close we are in meeting our global and community targets. We create rooms for honest, thought-provoking conversations, a ride that you wouldn't want to miss. Well, this is Timeline, where conversations lead to solutions that change lives.
Culture connects us beyond borders. It's a bridge between traditions, creativity, and the future.
Culture is alive, shaping identities and communities every day.
Art tells stories of resilience and vision.
Artists blend tradition with innovation.
Cultural preservation creates sustainability and empowerment.
Culture evolves and adapts.
Music and dance unites communities through movement.
And right here, in the heart of our cities, artists and creators are keeping these cultures alive.
On Culture Cove, let's explore,
Celebrate and preserve the arts and culture that define us.
All right, thank you so much for still being there. We're still talking about the blue economy. So, Mr. Bisong, let's go straight to probably highlighting some key regions that have, harnessed the power of the blue economy and how they are, thriving currently. Are there specific places you could highlight that you're certain have delved into the blue economy and then are having tangible results?
Yes, I can. First of all, I would look at to the big boys, the developed climes, the likes of the US and China, as well as even Europe as a whole. They've really exploited that. There've been lots of agreements, trade agreements, with regards, partnership, green partnership, with regards what they do. And then there've been lots of investment in developing, climate resilience ecosystem for blue economy, where even the shipping lines, they're now tilting towards the use of green hydrogen as a fuel, for their shipping lines. And then when it comes to Africa, I think Egypt is doing very well when it comes to transport services, especially I mentioned earlier the Suez Canal. They are leveraging on that. They're using their shipping lines very well. Morocco, for instance, the fishing, Morocco is doing very well.
Okay.
And then when you talk about the tourism, the maritime tourism, you look out for small island developing countries in Africa. You can look at Seychelles. They're doing very well. It's a core of their economy, but with regards optimal use of or harnessing the potential embedded in the blue economy, I can't say for fact, but I think it's a major contributor to their GDP. And then there are other island countries around the continent that they are, but I would still say they're underexploited. And then when you look at Nigeria, we have the coastal lines and all of that. You can see their Papa. It's like a trade route. It's a gateway for most of the border, before now, for most of the border countries, even Benin, where we supply the landlocked countries, You have Niger, Chad, Burkina Faso, most of their imports, port of destination is that their Papa ports will be somewhere around Benin or Togo. So it's really, like if you look at Benin, it's a core contributor to their GDP. When it comes to maritime transport. So there are lots of countries that are doing well, but like I said, for Nigeria, we have the potentials, but we need to set out a plan to be able to harness them.
All right, so that brings us to probably looking ahead, looking forward. What global shifts do you think need to happen for us to, now I'm talking in terms of policies, I'm talking in terms of technology. What are the major global shifts that need to happen for us to really, really make good use of the opportunities in the blue economy?
First thing first, let us digitalize our ports. And I'll tell you, based on our population and our market access, for instance, Nigeria, we need to automate our port system for efficiency and for seamless, because people complain the time it takes to even clear goods from a Papa port, for instance, it's really a whole lot, even if, transition and all of that. So we need to set up, digitalize the port system, and then if possible, automate it. Like the likes of South Africa, they do very well in terms of that, and even Benin. The ports, they are doing very well. So we need to, countries, especially countries that have opportunities or they have access to most of the seas and ocean, can take advantage. Nigeria can do that. And then, like I said, a plan. No matter how good you really have something, if there are no clear-cut plan, nobody would want to come and invest in that sector. So for us to attract the needed investment, foreign investment, especially from people from developed climes, there need to be a plan so that they see it and they know that, oh, these people are serious. So if we have that maritime spatial plan, I think that can help. And then the mapping should be done so that if investors are coming, they really understand the ecosystem. They know that it's working and all of that. And then enforcement, beyond setting out a plan. So for every agreement around the blue economy, there should be some level of enforcement, collaboration with these local communities and then coastal communities on the need to adhere to most of the set out plans. It's really important. So that can help drive sustainability and growth. And like I said, above all, government should be very deliberate about the sector, deliberate about the sector. The sector has a lot, but then there need to be massive investment. So government needs to be deliberate in terms of investment. We're hearing of issue of dredging. They were supposed to dredge certain seaports, but it's still yet to be done. So government needs to be deliberate, ensure dredging, and then all the seaports, especially in Nigeria, are functional. Not on paper, but in reality, so that we can decongest. You can see the Apapa port is actually congested, because it's a port of destination to feed almost the 36 states, as well as even some landlocked countries around the continent. So it's really important that the Warri seaport is dredged, Calabar as well as others, And like I said, government should prioritize the blue economy, the sectors and all of that. And I think we'll be on the path of good.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Anthony Bisong, for helping us untangle what the blue economy is.
Thank you so very much.
All right. Well, and this is where we draw the curtains on today's episode of Untangle. Like you heard, the blue economy has a lot of potential. You should also check into how you could contribute to this part of economy. Until next time, I remain your host, Blessing again. Bye for now.